Once upon a time, in a quiet little village where the air smelled sweet of flowers and the sky glowed soft at dusk, there lived a kind woman who longed for something. Her heart had never known a little daughter to love and hold. Each night, as the stars twinkled above her window, she whispered her wish. If only I could have a tiny child to bring joy into my life. Her heart's desire was so true that one day, a gentle fairy appeared, with eyes that sparkled like morning dew. The fairy handed her golden barley corn and said softly, "Plant this seed with love, and you shall see a miracle." The woman planted it carefully in a flower pot by her window. Soon, a green shoot sprang forth, curling upward with life. Before long, a tulip bud swelled upon its stem, glowing with colors richer than any jewel. And one quiet evening, as the bud opened, inside sat a little girl, so small and delicate that she was no taller than the woman's thumb. Her hair shimmered like silk, her smile glowed like sunshine. The woman gasped in wonder. "You shall be my little Thumbelina," she whispered, kissing the tiny girl with love. Thumbelina's life was filled with gems. Her cradle was a polished walnut shell, cushioned with petals of violets. Her blanket was a soft rose leaf, and in the daytime she danced across the polished wooden table on a plate of tulip petals. She sang with a voice as clear as bird song and dreamed beneath the moon's silvery glow. But though she was cherished, Thumbelina was fragile and small, and the great world beyond the window seemed far too large and dangerous. Still, she was happy until one fateful night, while Thumbelina slept peacefully. The window was pushed open with a croak. A damp, warty toad hopped inside. She peered into the walnut cradle and saw Thumbelina sleep. "Oh ho," croaked the toad. "What a perfect little bride for my son." Without another word, the toad scooped up the walnut cradle and carried Thumbelina away to the riverbank. The tiny girl stirred in her sleep, but when she awoke, she found herself placed upon a lily pad floating in the middle of the river. "Stay here, my dear," said the toad. "You'll soon marry my son and live in the mud forever." With that, the toad swam away, croaking happily. Thumbelina burst into tears. The wide river surrounded her, and there was no way to escape. She lifted her tiny hands and prayed for help. The river fish, who lived beneath the lily pad, heard Thumbelina's cries. They saw her small face streaked with tears and felt pity. Whispering among themselves, they nibbled at the stalk that held the lily pad to the riverbed. At last it snapped, and the lily pad began to drift away, carrying Thumbelina to safety. She clutched the petal edges of her green boat as it floated. Downstream, her heart full of gratitude. "Thank you, little fish," she whispered, though they could no longer hear her. As the lily pad floated, a bright white butterfly danced above the water. Delighted, Thumbelina tied her silk ribbon round the butterfly's body and then fastened it to the lily pad. Together, they glided faster along the river, like a boat pulled by a little winged horse. For the first time since her capture, Thumbelina smiled. She felt the warm sun on her cheeks and let the breeze play with her hair. But peace does not last forever. From the air buzzed a large beetle. He spotted Thumbelina and swooped down, scooping her away from her lily pad. The frightened butterfly tugged against the ribbon, but the knot slipped free. Thumbelina was carried high into the trees. The beetle looked her over curiously. "What a pretty little creature," he said, setting her down among the other beetles. But the beetles began to mutter. "She only has 2 legs and no feelers. She looks nothing like us." Though Thumbelina was beautiful in human eyes, to the beetles she was strange. At last, the beetle who had taken her sighed. "Perhaps you are not suited for us after all." He set her gently on a daisy and flew away. Thumbelina sat quietly, feeling abandoned. Still, she whispered, "At least he let me go," and she resolved to be brave. Summer faded into autumn, and Thumbelina wandered the fields alone. She made a bed of soft grass beneath a broadleaf, drinking dew in the morning and eating honey from flowers. She listened to the birds, but they soon flew away for winter. When cold winds swept across the land, Thumbelina shivered. She wrapped herself in dried leaves, but the frost crept into her bones. She thought she might not survive the winter, until one evening she spotted a small burrow beneath a hedge. Inside lived a kindly field mouse, warm and plump, with cupboards full of grain. Seeing Thumbelina at the door, trembling with cold, the mouse welcomed her. "You poor dear," said the mouse, "stay with me this winter. You'll never want for food or shelter. All I ask is that you tell me stories in the evenings, for I do love a tale." Grateful beyond words, Thumbelina agreed. Each night she told gentle stories of the sun, the flowers, and her adventures. The mouse listened happily, nodding along. One day, the field mouse's neighbor, a wealthy old mole, came to visit. He disliked the daylight, preferring the dark safety of his tunnels. But when he heard Thumbelina sing, he was enchanted. "What a sweet, delicate voice," he said. "She would make a fine wife. Let us arrange a marriage." The mouse clapped her paws in delight. "Yes, yes. Thumbelina will be well cared for, never cold or hungry again." But Thumbelina's heart sank. To live underground forever, without the warmth of the sun, was her worst fear. Yet she dared not refuse, for the mouse had been so kind. While walking through the dark tunnels that connected the mouse's burrow to the mole's, Thumbelina stumbled upon a swallow lying on the ground. Its wings were taut, its body shivering from the cold. "Oh, poor creature," she whispered, though the mole sneered. "It is only a bird." Good riddance, Thumbelina could not leave it. She wrapped the swallow in leaves, brought it water in a shell, and laid her own blanket over it. All winter long she cared for the bird, whispering songs and keeping it warm with her tiny hands. Slowly, the swallow regained its strength. When spring came, the swallow stretched its wings. "Dear Thumbelina," it said, "you saved my life. Come with me into the wide world, where the sun always shines." But Thumbelina shook her head sadly. "I cannot. The field mouse would be hurt, and the mole insists I marry him. I cannot run away." The swallow touched her cheek gently. "If ever you change your mind, call to me. I will come." And with a beat of its wings, it soared into the blue sky. Summer passed, then autumn, and at last the day of Thumbelina's wedding arrived. The mole had prepared his deepest, darkest tunnel for her to live in, far away from the sun and sky, as the mouse fussed over her bridal dress. Thumbelina slipped outside to see the sun one last time. The golden light warmed her face, and she lifted her arms, whispering, "Goodbye, dear sun. Goodbye, blue sky. Goodbye, flowers. I shall never see you again." At that very moment, a familiar shadow crossed the ground. The swallow swooped down and landed before her. "Come, Thumbelina," the bird cried. "Do not weep. I will take you far away from the dark tunnels. Fly with me to a land of light and warmth." Without hesitation, Thumbelina climbed onto the swallow's back, and together they soared into the sky. The swallow flew over mountains and seas until they reached a land filled with blossoms. Meadows stretched like carpets of color. Trees sparkled with fruit, and the air shimmered with sunlight. The bird gently set Thumbelina down upon a great white flower. As the petals opened, Thumbelina gasped for air. At the center stood a tiny prince, no taller than herself. His crown was made of golden pollen. and his cloak shimmered with petals. "Welcome, fair maiden," said the flower prince, bowing low. "You are as radiant as the blossoms of my kingdom. Will you be my queen?" With joy shining in her eyes, Thumbelina nodded. The prince placed delicate wings upon her back, shimmering like gossamer. At last, she could dance among the flowers and fly with the butterflies. The swallow sang happily above them. "This is your true home, little one. At last, you are where you belong." From that day on, Thumbelina was no longer lonely. She became the beloved queen of the flower people, known to them as admired. And she lived surrounded by beauty, kindness, love. And so, dear child, Thumbelina's story teaches us that even the smallest among us can hold the greatest courage. Though she faced hardships and dangers, she never lost her gentle heart. She cared for those in need, she enjoyed loneliness, and she followed her heart to find where she truly belonged. The world is wide, and sometimes it may feel too big. But remember, kindness is stronger than cruelty, and bravery will always guide you home. And so, under the soft blanket of night, may you dream of flowers that never fade, of tiny queens with wings of light, and of a swallow's song carrying you into the sky. Good night, little one. Sleep well, and may your dreams be filled with wonder.